It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Thank you for being here. I said that already, I think. Am I being redundant? Am I being redundant in my greetings?
I don't know, but you might be redundant in your greetings, so.
Greetings and salutations. What a day for a ball game. Let's play two.
Why not?
All right. I stole that.
Yeah.
From George Costanza.
Right.
All right, you ready for this? You and I wondered the other day, we went, ooh. Former squad member Jamal Bowman. Remember he pulled the fire alarm?
Mm-hmm.
This is how childish this guy is. Elon Musk has threatened to sue former Democratic Representative Jamal Bowman after the ex-squad member called him a Nazi and a thief.
Just the other day it happened. We played the audio.
We played it, yep. I've had enough. Lawsuit inbound, Musk posted on X on Friday. Bowman, who lost last July's Democratic primary following a series of anti-Semitic controversies and a Capitol stunt resulting in his criminal conviction, that was pulling a fire alarm to stop people from going to vote, stop Congress from going to vote, told a panel of commentators that the American people do not trust Elon Musk and Elon Musk is incompetent in his position. Quote, and how do we know? Because they fired tens of thousands of people. It was challenged in court. The court said the people have to go back, and now the people are coming back. He's incompetent. He's a thief. He's a Nazi, and people don't trust him, Bowman said. Host Abby Phillip jumped in clarifying, former Congressman Bowman, I just have to say, just a second, your opinion about Elon Musk is your opinion on Elon Musk. It's my opinion, Bowman said. Left-wing media previously accused Musk of doing a Nazi salute when he addressed a crowd on Inauguration Day. That suggestion was false, as Musk first slapped his heart, extended his arm, and explained the gesture by saying, my heart goes out to you. Even the Anti-Defamation League conceded the moment was awkward, but was not anti-Semitic. His mother called on her son to sue CNN for peddling the Nazi salute narrative. Many on the tech billionaire's platform backed the possibility of Musk suing Bowman over his remarks. Senator Mike Lee wrote, sue him. Defamation against conservatives cannot go unaddressed or it will never end. Fight back, Nancy Mace said. Accusing people of crimes is not protected opinion. CNN is putting itself at risk of liability for bringing on guests who repeat potentially defamatory claims unchallenged, she said. So, you look at that, and, you and I have said this before, that you can call somebody a moron, a jerk, an idiot. You can't call them a thief. And
you're saying they've committed a crime.
Yep. And you can't call them a Nazi.
No. And
you can sue. Public figures are not we've talked about the fact that there's a difference between a private citizen and a public figure in the law.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't mean you can say anything you want against a public figure.
Right.
And we all know, everyone knows that he's not a Nazi.
Right.
There is no allegation that he's a thief. To make those labels is when you start getting into defamation categories, even for a person who's in the public, a public figure. Because you look at it and you say, okay, if you make a mistake, for example, if you say that a private citizen is something that they are not, you can be sued, even if you didn't mean it and it wasn't malicious.
Right.
If you just stated it,
Right.
you have to get to the point of being malicious. Everyone knows that Elon Musk is not a Nazi. It's self-evident.
Right.
That's the point that you have there. And then the other point, the one where you can double down on it's malicious, is that he called him a thief and a Nazi. And there's no evidence of either. None.
Yeah, and you're looking, again, to do damage. As you get into this whole thing of, I wondered if there was a pending lawsuit against Tim Walz. I don't know specifically if there was anything there, but applauding the fact that Tesla stock was going through the bottom. It was, I love this. I wake up and his stock is failing. Well, there may not be a lawsuit there.
Yeah, I don't see that as defamatory.
But what I wonder is there's a couple of things. The state fund, the pension fund, had a significant chunk invested in Tesla. I don't know if that's going to change because, quite frankly, if the stock isn't performing, then maybe the pension should reconsider it. That's not up to me, but that quite often happens as a result of lack of performance on a stock. But it's there. And you look at all the things that have been said about Elon Musk. Well, he is the CEO of a number of companies. He's in charge of a number of companies here. By the way, don't you find it really ironic? Jamal Bowman pulls a fire alarm, and the left is applauding people who burn Teslas.
I like that. That's
he's got to be saying to himself, wait a minute. I know I can't pull the law. The law doesn't allow me to pull the fire alarm, but it also doesn't allow you to burn people's property. But that's.
And think about this, because of his anti-Semitism, because of his absolute hate. I mean, he is just the worst kind of everything, where he was so bad, the Democrats kicked out an incumbent in a primary.
Yeah, right.
Sorry, you're too radical for us. And CNN says, let's pull this guy who's completely irresponsible.
Exactly.
But that's
and get
where
his opinion.
No, but that's where CNN, that's where you go to court and say, because the whole point is, what does Jamal Bowman have in assets?
Right. Yeah.
So who do you go after next? You go after the
Whoever
company
aired it.
He works for,
right?
And the evidence that he should not have gone on should not be a paid contributor, because he's apparently works for CNN.
Mm-hmm.
As what do they call one of the news
contributor?
News contributor,
mm-hmm.
Right? Exactly, like a Fox News contributor, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
That you already know his anti-Semitism is clear, and he broke the law. He pulled a fire alarm. You know he will be reckless,
mm-hmm.
and you put him on the air anyway.
Right.
That's where the problem comes in for CNN,
yep.
I would
right.
believe. You put on some...
And you didn't do enough to counter, as the company that owns the real estate that he's on, you didn't do enough to counter what he said, to reject it and separate yourself from it. You can't just say, oh, we want to be clear, that's just your opinion.
Right.
I could see them going after, again, the lawyers saying, no. You have some responsibility here for airing this.
Well, clearly she panicked.
Yeah. Look, because she knows.
It'd be great.
I don't think CNN has the lawyers on the set like they do.
Yeah,
at the
but
View,
that would be. But wouldn't that be great if when Bowman's on, that he has to do a legal note? By the way, former Representative Bowman. Nobody else, Scott. No, Scott, you're Jennings. You're fine. Sure, Michael Singleton, you're fine. Even
mm-hmm.
Abby, you're fine.
Mm-hmm.
The rest of you Democrats that come on now, you're going to be getting legal notes when you defame someone.
Right. They're going to have to write the script for you, rewrite your script, because you're too radical. And you don't know where the line is. By the way, they don't care where the line is. Clearly, go back to the fire alarm incident.
Yeah.
He doesn't know where, he doesn't care where the line is.
But that's interesting. It's like, how do you get a job as an adult? You're a member of Congress. Everyone knows you're anti-Semitic. Mm-hmm. You get primaried. You lose your seat because you're anti-Semitic, and you pull the fire alarm to stop the process of democracy while screaming that the other side is taking away democracy.
Yeah.
But an adult pulls a fire alarm. That's not a person I'm going to hire to give their opinion on my network.
Right.
It'll be interesting to see if he does sue.
Well, I'm thinking, he's probably thinking, because I would be thinking this way, if you don't draw the line, right? If you just let them get away with that. The Nazi thing, if it were just Jamal Bowman calling him a Nazi, maybe. But the thief thing, I remember when we played the audio, I thought, is there a lawsuit there? You're accusing him directly of breaking the law. Stealing, being a thief, is unlawful. That's where you get into trouble, and you certainly throw that out. There's a reason. You know, we saw the whole ABC thing fall out with Stephanopoulos, and now he's unhappy. I don't care. He's also not responsible.
I didn't lose any sleep that Stephanopoulos was unhappy.
He's unhappy. He's unhappy. So what? But I'm convinced that's why they started stepping up on The View, because that's part of the ABC News division, this whole enforcement by their lawyers. And I think that's what's going on there. Look, we can't get it handed to us. We've already built half of the Trump library. Can't build the other half. You know, put the logo up. We still think they should put an entire section paid for by ABC News.
Well, so people understand, in case you didn't hear it, the ABC lawsuit, that money is going to build the Trump library.
Mm-hmm.
And what we said is, because it's going to be the Trump library, you've got to have the fake news section.
Yeah.
The fake news section of the Trump library with donations made for and sponsored by ABC.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I mean, you can't get better than that.
Oh, my gosh.
You just can't.
Yeah.
So add CNN into that.
Right.
The fake news wing of the Donald Trump Presidential Library.
Exactly.
Brought to you by ABC, CNN, MSNBC.
You know, and it would be just, I mean, it'd be great. Here's the DOGE section, sponsored by CNN. And Tesla.
Well, the thing is, Abby clearly knew what territory he was getting into.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
We talked about this, you know, being in the media. This is now 20 years that you and I have been together. So 20 years doing national talk radio, and then years before, you know, local talk radio and other radio. Nobody ever told me what the rules were.
I didn't need anybody.
We've never had legal representation say, look, you guys can only go this far. But when you do this, you understand that you can be held personally liable.
Yeah.
So you learn the rules very quickly as to what you can say and what you can't say. And then the other thing is, the things I can't say, I would never say anyway, even if the law didn't exist.
Right.
Because I'm not going to defame someone. I'm not going to lie about somebody.
Right. And yet, again, they don't care.
And I guess that's what
They know this.
I guess that's what it really comes down to.
Yeah.
Is even when
The
I
type
didn't
of
know the
person you
law,
are.
I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, the type of person
Right.
you are. I don't need to. I can debate them on the issues. I can say they're a liar because I can show you where they lied.
Trump's probably telling them, sue because you're going to get some money. You're going to be able to punish them because they don't want you doing discovery at CNN. That's what it is. Everybody's willing to settle because nobody wants the discovery. Nobody wants the public to know and actually see in a court of law where their biases come from.
Right. No, that's it. Do it just for not the fun of it, but the satisfaction of winning it.
Yeah. 866-90 Red Eye.
This morning's USDA Farm Report is brought to you by House Products. Tested, trusted, guaranteed since 1920.
Food safety considerations in the event of a flood. USDA food safety expert Meredith Carruthers.
You want to assume it's contaminated and it's not going to be safe to consume certain foods, things that have come into contact with floodwater.
In most cases, this applies to food in non-waterproof containers. If food is contained within all metal cans or retort pouches,
You can boil and make safe and whatnot, but really, truly erring on the side of if something has come into contact with floodwater, it is safest to discard.
Carruthers advises drinking only bottled water, not in contact with floodwater. As for cookware, ceramic dishes, and utensils contaminated by flood,
Brush away any dirt, wash them with soap and water, and then you can sanitize them by putting them in water and allowing the water to come to a boil for 2 minutes continuously. Or you can put them in a freshly made solution of 1 tablespoon of unscented chlorine bleach per gallon of drinking water.
items like wooden cutting boards and plastic utensils in contact with floodwaters must be disposed of. I'm Rod Bain reporting for the U.S. Department of Agriculture in Washington, D.C.
This report brought to you by Cenex Fuels and Lubes.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. All right, we have this audio cut from Rand Paul. He was on Face the Nation and asked about the Department of Education and money for education and students.
But when we looked at the budget in Kentucky, the state receives $2 billion in federal education funding. Do you have a guarantee that the federal government, federal taxpayers will still provide $2 billion in education funding? That seems important to your state.
I'd rather, what I'd rather is a guarantee that my kids can read and write and do math. The amount of dollars, look, the number of dollars has gone up exponentially and our scores have gone the other way. So dollars are not proportional to educational success. What I want is success. And I've talked a lot about this. I think there are innovations we can do where there's more learning via some of the best teachers and we pay them more. I would like to have an NBA or NFL of teachers, the most extraordinary teachers, teach the entire country.
Who would run that? The education department?
And some of them, no, what you'd find is they'd be selected out, state by state, across the nation. Look, people say, oh, with the Department of Education would have no testing. I was in school before then. We did achievement tests in the 6th grade, the 5th grade, the 8th grade, and we compared ourselves across state lines. There were international testing.
Yeah.
You don't need the Department of Education for any of that. But what I can tell you is the best teacher in the world is not teaching the kids.
Yeah.
What we need to do is have the best teachers and pay them more, but they wouldn't teach 30 kids. They might teach 10 million kids at a time because it would be presented through the internet with local teachers.
Did you hear how she's
trying
to interrupt him? Okay,
Right.
we've had enough.
Okay, that's
Stop
enough.
it. Yep,
Okay,
stop it.
stop with your efficiency. You and your efficiency. Yeah, she couldn't handle that. Yeah. Well,
I
don't
love
ask the
that.
question.
We both picked up on that,
Yeah.
didn't we? It was like,
Yeah. Okay.
I'm
okay.
loving this.
Fine. Yeah. Okay.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
And he's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. When I was watching parts of Bill Maher and also his podcast with the comedian, I think it's Andrew Schultz, I think it is. It got interesting because they talked about a number of things. One of them that I thought was pretty interesting was on what is projected, how many seats, for example, California is going to lose, Indiana, Illinois, New York, the liberal states that will be losing House seats, and how you project this out. And also this was part of Mark Cuban debating over the weekend about just, the economy and tariffs. And Cuban made the point. He said, well, these blue states are going to have to react and become much more business-oriented. And the response to Cuban was, they've shown no interest in doing that now.
Why would they start now?
Right. There's no interest. Where does this, if they won't do it now and they're going the opposite direction, how do you think they're going to do it, then? And then they keep losing House seats. Well, this, again, brings up something that we had talked about, in fact, to start the show. But I went back and found an article from Politico about what would happen, hypothetically, and they did this in January. So back then it was only, he's joking about Canada being the 51st state. Nobody's saying that anymore.
No.
But what would happen if Canada became the 51st state? All right? Some corrections from what we initially said. You don't add on to the 435 in the House.
Yeah, someone was saying that. They sent us a note. Yeah, you don't add to the 435.
Their
districts, the
right.
435 districts just get a lot larger.
Yes. So we had that wrong when we stated that.
Okay.
That does not. Eric had that wrong when he stated that.
Unless the Liberals wanted to do a constitutional amendment and, change the number. Who knows?
Right. I mean, did you notice I snuck in Eric out of wrong?
Yeah.
Okay, just want to make sure you got that, all right?
Right.
It was very important to me that you got that.
Yeah, Gary didn't catch it, so, okay.
No, we just had thrown it on. I hadn't done any serious research on it when I did. It's when I found this article among others.
Yeah.
But no, it'd be 435. So what would happen is a bunch of states, because what you would do is you would take the 435 and divide it by whatever that would be. That would be 300.
Yeah, 380
million.
380 million roughly.
We're 340 right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
So 380 million, and then you divide it, and so you would have, again, where it's roughly, what is it?
700,000 in that range.
Per congressional district.
Yeah.
It would be well over 1 million.
Right.
And so some states wouldn't have to give up any electoral votes. Texas would have to give up 4. California would have to give up 6. You would get, I think it was, let me just get it here. Canada would get the 2 senators. Now, here's the thing that I think they have wrong. They say that California would have 46 seats and Canada 45. How? Because Canada would have more of a population than California. Maybe they're looking at. I don't know what they're looking. I don't know what numbers they're looking at census numbers, but whatever. It would be close. But Canada would get at least 45 seats based on that. 31 states would lose House seats to make up for Canada's 45 seat delegation.
All right.
Let me see. California would lose 6. Texas would lose 4. Florida would lose 3. New York, Illinois, Pennsylvania, North Carolina would lose 2 each, and 24 would each lose 1 seat. That would almost certainly boost Democrats' numbers in the House. Now, they say it's impossible. This is a great point. It's impossible to know to what extent because of redistricting.
That's what I was actually just wondering. How do you they call it cracking and packing. How do you crack and pack that map when it looks that way? I don't know.
I said,
How do you divide that up?
aggressive gerrymandering. Could you?
Oh, are you kidding me?
Could you imagine?
If you think it's been aggressive in the recent past,
Could you imagine? No, the gerrymandering of Canada.
yeah,
I mean, you'd have a district that would start in the Northwest Territories.
yeah,
It'd be near the Arctic Circle, down through the Northwest Territories, just skim the suburbs of Vancouver,
yeah.
go through a populated section, a rare populated section of Alberta just to get
Right.
some in there, and then go all the way
Because it's
to Newfoundland.
well, no, it's based on population of that zone.
Right, exactly.
Who was it? The former Republican Will Hurt, his district. Remember, it butted up against the El Paso district that Beto used to represent. But it was mostly, I mean, it was a wide open range. You know, it was a huge, land-wise, a huge district. But in terms of the map, it would look crazy for the same reason.
Yep. So under currently where we are right now, and again, so they said they believe it would be a much better advantage for Democrats in the House. They just don't know how much, depending on how
And
you
where
did
did they
it.
get on the electoral count?
The electoral count right now, okay, let me just get it right now. Right now, blue states make up 226 electoral votes. Red states make up 219 and 7 battleground states. With Canada's 47 electoral votes, Democrats would enter every election with 253 seats. Republicans would have 202. There'd be 85 up for grabs because some of the states, some of the purple states would lose would lose an electoral vote. The Democrat nominee would need just 18 electoral votes to get 271.
Yep.
Which means they would only need 2 battleground states where Republicans every election would have to win 5. That's a daunting disadvantage for Republicans. Now, Trump still would have won because he took every state, every purple state, every battleground state he took. So he would have won the election.
Mm-hmm. But when we go back to the old GOP, we're screwed.
Yes.
Which has been my fear all along.
Because it would be a daunting disadvantage for Republicans. And they said, but 2028 would sure be interesting, especially once Greenland became the 52nd state.
Yeah, right. Exactly. The Greenland gets a vote.
It's as we said earlier, it's not happening. We wish that.
What about El Salvador?
We wish he would start.
Let's open it up.
No, they'll just be our prison colony.
Exactly.
But it's but it's not going to happen.
It's probably true.
It's not going to happen, but it's interesting that, when you look at it. But yeah, I had just forgotten that you don't. Then again, who of us, except for my father, who else was around when any new state came into the union?
Well, and that's it. I mean, because it does matter on the redistricting. That's going to be a massive fight. And the down ballot would also matter because that would be in play. If the Democrats came in only needing to achieve 18, politically, I won't say it's a cakewalk, but it's kind of a cakewalk. It's a massive advantage that it would be very hard to overcome. We don't see the political comebacks and performance of a Donald Trump in today's age by the GOP. We don't see that. It's extremely, political comebacks I don't know that we've ever seen. But in terms of that performance overall, of how he brought voters across, I don't know that I see anybody else in the future in the GOP. I can be proven wrong. Maybe J.D. Vance is the next. It could be Barron Trump 20 years from now. I can't tell you, but right now, I don't put that kind of trust And the last thing I would want to do is hand the advantage over to liberals.
It would be a huge blockade, especially in a time. I mean, if I got anything out of this weekend, the last week really, not just this weekend, Democrats are completely lost. They don't know where to go. And when I heard Bill Maher talking about how just in general, because of population losses, the number of seats, and it's continuing year in and year out, he said there's no hope for the Democrats. That was his point. He goes, there's no hope. They're not going to be able to defeat this. The only thing that could put a stall on that would be Canada.
Right.
And right now, that's the one thing. That's why I brought up Mark Cuban debating it and other people debating it over the weekend, which was on the economic scene, is New York going to change? Is Illinois going to change? Is California going to change? Are they going to become competitive states? That was the point Mark Cuban was trying to make. Well, they'll have to be competitive. Well, they don't have to be anything.
Right. No.
And I guess at one point when the states are about to collapse budget-wise, they might have to do it, but who knows when that would be? I understand what he means, but there is no concern at all from the California government that they need to be competitive.
No.
And you saw they're kicking off Republicans.
Yeah.
In the state legislature, they're kicking off Republicans off of different committees because they don't want them talking.
Yeah.
They don't want them to have any impact because they know they cannot even win much of the public opinion. Did I see, what was the article that was written that 50% of California said they'd be willing to vote for a Republican? I don't know if that's the case yet, but how bad does it get before you get a public revolt? And what is that revolt going to be in the Democratic Party? Mm-hmm. Is it going to be just fiscal things? Are they going to hold on to the insanity of the radical transgender movement? Because that was one of the stories I saw yesterday. I think it was National Review saying they're not going to give that up.
I don't think they will.
If you don't give up the insanity of racism and misogyny, if you're going to hold on to that, then why not hold on to the anti-capitalist views that you have that fit right in with both of those?
Right.
Being an anti-capitalist,
if you're going to be radical,
being an anti-capitalist is the new anti-racism, which is racism.
Right.
I mean,
yeah.
But here it is. Let me just see. Was Jack Butler wrote at National Review. The left does not want to moderate on transgenderism. Any left-leaning politician who wants to moderate on trans issues will have to do so in defiance of the left itself. Things are weird on the left when Gavin Newsom is seen as a right-wing sellout for simply stating and not acting on his apparently long-held view that allowing men to compete against women in sports is deeply unfair, and some leftists have turned against the California governor. There's a ton of articles over the weekend on that one. We'll get to them during the week, which is like the left is going, what the hell's up with Newsom? He can't be this way.
Right.
So it's like everybody's complaining about it.
Yeah.
About him. So
we said, though, when they announced it was going to start, bad idea. We give free advice all the time. Just listen.
Yeah, we did. It's like
free advice. This is not a good thing. This ain't going to help you. This is only going to end in chaos.
I think Gavin Newsom's next guest should be Schumer.
Along with Bernie.
Oh, Bernie.
Yeah.
Bernie, can we talk anything? No.
Nonsense.
No nonsense. Can't believe he was ready to walk off the Sunday morning.
The guy who believes men can be women believes in no nonsense.
866-90 Red Eye.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Here it is. Nearly 50% of likely California voters revealed they are considering voting for a Republican candidate to be the next governor of the state in 2026, according to a recent poll. The poll conducted between March 6th through the 9th of likely voters in the upcoming November 2026 California gubernatorial race found that 48% would consider voting for a Republican governor, according to our great affiliate, KABC Radio.
Wow.
There you go.
Interesting.
The poll was conducted by national pollster David Wilson.
Wow.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.